Revelation chapter 12. Actually, we're going back up to chapter 11, and I want to read one verse, chapter 15. And I don't know how I missed this the first go round. But Revelation chapter 12, verse 15 says, "And the seventh angel sounded." That's the seventh trumpet. Look what happens. "And there were great voices in heaven saying," now get this, "the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." I read this verse multiple times this week. One night at 2 o'clock, I was wide awake because that's just what I do. My brain was going about 28 different directions. And this verse came to my mind. Look what it says. "The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." I understand. We've been going to church all our life. We've read the end of the book. Jesus wins. It's in black and white right here. Jesus wins. Now think of John. He's witness, participant in all of these really horrible things that are happening where we are. And then smack dab in the middle. How many chapters are there in Revelation? 22. Chapter 11. Think of all that John, just think of his emotions. In chapter 11, Jesus says, "I win." Now think, all that's happening at this point, and we know that Jesus wins. We get that. And I'm sure somewhere John had to have known Jesus was going to win. But think of how John felt when he heard this. Jesus wins. And in verse 11 of chapter 10, God told John, "You're not near through. There's a lot more you've got to witness. There's a lot more you've got to record." We're in the middle of the writing of Revelation. Now at this point in time, we're at the very end, I believe, at the very end of year number 7. John did not know that. And then for Jesus to come to him and says, "I win." Don't you know that was just a wonderful, great feeling for John? Jesus wins. Now let's start chapter 12. And he's going to go back, "Really?" Okay, chapter 12. Just hang on. Verse 1 says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman." We've got to understand, this woman is Israel. If we don't get that, then we're not going to get anything else out of this chapter. This woman is representative of the nation of Israel. So a woman clothed with the sun. What does our world revolve around? The sun? Okay. Woman clothed with sun. Israel. Divine honor. At the top. And the moon under her feet. Something under your feet, you've conquered it. You're over it. You've won. And the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, representative of the 12 tribes. And she being with child cried. Who or whom, whatever's proper English, is this child? Jesus. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. So right now, we've gone way, way, way back in history, okay? "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, Satan, Lucifer, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head." The 7 here, I think, is representative of the 7 great empires of this world, were any of them godly empires?
No.
Not a one of them. Who was their head? Satan. And 10 horns, the 10 here, I believe, represents the 10-nation alliance that the Antichrist will have when he appears on the scene. So notice, we're going back and forth in time, okay? So just hang on. And his tail, Lucifer, Satan, his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, stars being the angels, and did cast them to the earth. I'm going to ask a lot. Has this happened or has this not happened? This verse right here, verse 4, it has happened. At least I believe it has happened. Way back when Lucifer rebelled. He was kicked out of heaven, a third of the angels with him. And the middle part of verse 4, and the dragon, Satan, stood before the woman, Israel, which was ready to be delivered, ready to have Jesus, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Satan knew. Satan's sharp, folks. Don't think he's not. Satan knew that if he could defeat Jesus, if he could kill Jesus, he won. He would win. What easier thing to do than to kill a small, helpless baby? So Satan, he's got to be licking his chops. He's got, well, I've got this. And she, here again referring to the nation of Israel, brought forth a man-child, being Jesus, who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron. This has not happened yet. Jesus was born. That's happened. To rule all nations with the rod of iron, that will happen in the millennium. It has not happened yet. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Talking about the ascension of Jesus. That has happened. So Satan, at the very beginning, he lost. He missed a perfect opportunity. He was not able to take advantage of it because God had his hand wrapped around Jesus. Verse 6, and the woman, verse 6, has not happened yet. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days, 3.5 years. This has not happened. Verse 7. I'm going with verse 7, has not happened yet. You can argue that point, and you might be right. I don't think verse 7 has happened. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Personally, I believe this is an event that has not happened. Let's see as we read. I think we'll come to that same conclusion. Verse 9, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, get this, which deceiveth the whole world. The first time when Satan was cast out of heaven and a third of the angels, if my understanding is correct, there was an earth, there was a world, but men had not been created yet. If my understanding is correct, which deceiveth the whole world. So the first time when he's cast out, man is not around for him to deceive. So that's why I think verse 7 and 8 refers to a future event. He was cast out into the earth, where his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. Now get this. For the accuser, Satan, of our brethren is cast down, which accuse them before our God day and night. So verse 10 is happening as we're here. We're living basically verse 10. We think about Satan accusing, we have biblical record of it when Satan accused Job before God. But that wasn't the last time. That wasn't the first time. It's not the last time according to this verse right here. Satan is not omniscient. He doesn't know everything. But a lot of these, his helpers, they'll run to Satan and say, hey, you know, oh, so-and-so, that great Christian, look what I got them to do. And Satan, immediately, he goes to heaven, comes before God and says, hey, God, oh, so-and-so, who you thought loved you, who you thought was obedient to you, who proclaims that they love you, look what we got them to do. Look what we got them to do. He's lying to you. He doesn't love you. Look what we got him to do. And look in verse 11. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. When Satan goes up to heaven and he tattletales on us, God looks at Satan, and he looks down, says, Satan, I don't know what you're talking about. And Satan's going to start arguing with him. Look what he's done. Look what he's doing right now. Verse 11 tells us that God looks down. Satan, I don't see what you're talking about. So-and-so, all I'm seeing is the blood of my son that's covering their sins. So, I don't know what you're talking about. It makes Satan mad. Verse 12. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Look at this. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. When Satan is cast out of heaven, banned permanently from heaven, that second time, he's going to be mad. Satan, it says right here, because he knoweth. Satan knows that he hath but a short time. Now, Satan is the ultimate liar, master deceiver. Satan has lied so long that he knows time is short. But I believe, because he is this great liar, and when you tell a lie long enough, what happens? You start believing it. Satan is believing his own lies. Satan believes with everything that's in him that he's going to win. Now, he knows there's not much time left. But he thinks that he's going to win. And he's mad. In verse 12, when he's thrown out of heaven, he is mad. He is so mad that, in my mind, he's not thinking straight. He's just operating off of, I don't say emotion, but anger. Look in verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, when he is banned permanently from heaven, look what happens first. He persecuteth the woman Israel, which brought forth the man-child. So who does Satan go after first? The Jews. He goes after them. And to the woman, Israel, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. There is a remnant that will be saved. There's a remnant that will be cared for, provided for. At this point in time, God is going to take that remnant and he is going to hide them. Now, Satan knows that they were there and all of a sudden they're not there. He knows that they're somewhere, but God takes them, provides for them, hides them. And Satan, as powerful as he is, as smart as he is, and with all the helpers that he's got around him, they cannot find this remnant. So what does Satan do? Verse 15, and the serpent, Satan, cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. I said earlier that Satan is just operating on just total anger. He's not thinking straight. Who is, at this point in time, who is the ruler of the earth, of the air? Satan. Satan is willing to cut off his own nose to spite his face, to kill, to annihilate the Jews, God's chosen people. And look at how much power Satan possesses. He has the power to flood the earth. He's not thinking straight. He's willing to lose everything to kill the remainder of the Jews. Look what happens in verse 16. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. God says, hold on, wait a minute. Back. Claudine was watching Noah on TV. God said, I made a promise. I'll not let the earth be destroyed with the flood ever again. So Satan's not thinking straight. God says, it's not going to happen. And God somehow, think of how much water it's going to take to flood the earth. And he just opens it up. And he just swallows it up. Look what happens in verse 16. You think the devil is mad in verse 12? Verse 17 rather. And the woman, and the dragon was wroth with the woman. Satan has totally lost it at this time. The anger, he cannot think straight. And went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So he goes after, initially in verse 13, he goes after the Jews. But verse 17, who is he going after? All saved. Doesn't matter what nationality you are. And went to make war with the remnant of her seed. If you're saved, really at any point in the tribulation, it's not going to be good. But at this point in time, Satan, if you're saved, and I've said this over and over, you've got a target on your back, which really is the best thing that could happen to you. Because think of the condition of the earth at this point in time. Just horrible to even try to live. Satan is going after all the saved at this point in the tribulation. What's he going to do? He's going to kill you. Thinking you've won. Thinking he's won. But really, and we'll read about how great that's going to be for those individuals then and in the millennium. But that's where we stop today. We'll pick up in verse 13 next week. Verse 12, we're just covered. We cover thousands of years in this one chapter right here. Do y'all have any thoughts or any questions?